Disclaimer, none of the footage used in this video is mine. It all goes to the respective copyright holders and uploaders, who will all be linked down in the description below. Hello everyone, so welcome back to the channel. This is my first video in a while, and I know some of you are probably wondering if this is going to be a one-time thing, or if I'm going to be coming back full-time. And the answer is yes, I am coming back full-time, but the uploads will be a lot more spaced out, and they'll be more like this sort of video, commentary and review. With all that being said, I'm happy to be back, and today we're talking about Resident Evil 4, one of my favorite games of all time. And I've always wanted to get sort of into the commentary review side of YouTube, and I thought this would be a good way to get into it, especially, now since the world is in lockdown and we have nothing better to do. So yeah, I hope you all enjoy this video. I'm happy to be back. I always love putting out content for you all, and I hope you all enjoy this different type of video. See you all in the next one. Peace. Resident Evil is a series created by Capcom in 1996, and the first game was released along with the PlayStation. It was a very big success, and this prompted Capcom to release Resident Evil 2 in 1998 and Resident Evil 3 just a year later in 1999. This was the last main series Resident Evil game for 6 years, but Capcom released many spin-off games in this gap, some of which include Resident Evil Code Veronica in 2000, Resident Evil 0 in 2002, and Resident Evil Outbreak in 2003. There are 28 games in the Resident Evil series. No, you did not hear me wrong. There are 28 games in this series, which, is oversaturation, but some of them are good. And this was all within the span of 25 years. In 2005, Capcom released Resident Evil 4, which was initially released on the GameCube, but was eventually ported to everything, like iOS and... Zeebo? The fuck is Zeebo? iCarly? Anyways, moving on. Resident Evil 4 was a huge success, and following on from this, Capcom made Resident Evil 5 in 2009, using the same format and style as Resident Evil 4. However, Resident Evil 5 was a huge flop, and is widely considered by most to be a worse game in the main series due to its terrible AI. Looking at you here, Sheva. In 2012, Capcom released Resident Evil 6, which had 4 campaigns. It also used a partner AI system, but it was much more refined and well done. This game was still rejected by most fans, and it was mostly just an action game as opposed to a survival horror. This would be the last main series game Capcom will put out for 5 years, when they released Resident Evil Biohazard in 2017. This was a step back to the survival horror roots, and it was greatly accepted by fans. Although I'm not a fan of the game personally, I do appreciate how it returned the game to its roots. Since this, Capcom have released remakes for Resident Evil 1, 2 and 3. They have been greatly accepted by fans and are very highly acclaimed by critics. Now then, enough with the history, let's get on to the main focus of this video, Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was an idea thought up by Shinji Mikami after the release of Resident Evil 3. It was a long development, spanning 4 years and having 4 rejected versions. Version 1 was rejected due to its straying too far from the series, but the concept was used to create the series Devil May Cry. The second version, commonly dubbed the Fog version, featured Leon struggling to survive in a castle after being infected with the progenitor virus. The third version featured Leon in a similar setting, fighting ghoulish enemies such as empty suits of armor, possessed dolls, and a ghostly man called the Hookman, as seen here. The fourth and final scrap version, referred to as the Hallucination version, featured Leon and the Spencer Castle, accompanied by a BOW and a dog. This version was scrapped due to it being too expensive to produce, and the producer of the version, Yoshihisa Kawamura, I'm very sure I fucked that up, but he apologized for this because he thought it was a very good version. And so the final version was born. One of the best games of all time in my opinion, so let's get into why. So let me try and set the scene for you all. It's 2004, set 6 years after the events of Resident Evil 2, and Leon S. Kennedy is now working for the government. His first mission? Save the US President's daughter. Okay, as much as I adore this game, I've never been able to get over this. They sent one fella to a rural area of Spain, with his only backup being 2 local cops. We're talking about the president's family here. If this was in some way realistic, he'd be sent in along with a SWAT team. In fact, he probably wouldn't even be sent in at all. It would just be a SWAT team and a shit ton of cops with guns. Okay, back on topic. So, on his mission, he is ambushed by the infected cult that has kidnapped Ashley, who is the president's daughter, called the Los Illuminados. The 100% original name, definitely not just the Spanish for the Illuminati, but anyways, moving on. The game devs decided that they would make this a somewhat standalone game, with the only ties to the rest of the series being Leon and a few other characters who I won't name because spoilers. This is vastly regarded as the best Resident Evil game by most fans, so let's get into some of the reasons why. Well, there are many things that make Resident Evil 4 so good. There's the most beautiful, magnificent, amazing man who makes my dreams come true. No, silly, I don't mean Leon, I mean the merchant.
Got something that might interest you.
No other Resident Evil game used a merchant who deals weapons and equipment. This is a mistake on Capcom's part because he was a pretty great way to keep progressing your inventory throughout the game. There's also a vast variety of enemies. We got stuff like regular zombies, to stuff like El Thick Gigante, and a fucking scorpion looking bitch with claws coming out of his back. There's also the save room music. The save room teams have always been a staple of the Resident Evil franchise, and they've always been made to match the game they are in. Resident Evil 4 is set in Spain, so the save room team is played on a Spanish guitar. There's a lot of weapon variety in it too, like you got shit from a Blacktail pistol to a motherfucking PRL 412 laser cannon. Goddamn Shinji Mikami, simmer down mate, okay? Outside of the main game, there's also a lot of extra modes you can play, like the Mercenaries, where you can play as a variety of characters for score. There's also separate ways, in which you play through the main campaign again, but this time it's from the perspective of Ada. And if that Ada is in the game is a spoiler, I'm not entirely sure this video is for you. There's also Assignment Ada, in which you play again as Ada, this time collecting Plaga samples. Although that is a shorter game mode, it's still pretty fun to play. Something else the game did well, at least in my opinion, was change to being a third-person camera shot as opposed to a fixed camera angle like in the first 3 games. Although that's just my preference, I think it was a better move and it made the game a lot more playable and replayable. And now that as much as I love this game, it does have very few areas that it didn't succeed in, and I would like to talk about those. Although there aren't many flaws in Resident Evil 4, there are a few. In some versions of the game, you can earn trophies or achievements for you Xbox players out there. RE4 had many areas they could have created trophies for, but the PS3 version had less than 20 trophies you can unlock, which is way less than the usual for a game, and it would have been added so much more replayability to the game. Another flaw is that, like its successor games, Resident Evil 4 is mainly an action game, as opposed to being a survival horror. The game still has some aspects of the games before it, like having some puzzles, but is highly centered around action and shooting. These are still very small things, and I don't think it affects the overall amazingness of the game too much. Now, let's talk about my actual review of the game. I think Resident Evil 4 is one of the best games made to this day. It has a vast range of game modes, which means it has a lot of variety for people to choose from. It also has a lot of replayability. Me personally, I've beaten the main campaign 19 times and completed all the extra modes many times more. Just thought I'd flex real quick. Resident Evil 4 has stood up against hate and people questioning its level of quality and has come out on top. Resident Evil 4 still has a very active community to date in speedrunning, and there's a Discord that they use down below that I'll link if you're interested in that. Speedrunning Resident Evil 4 is a very fun thing to learn and to try out, and I would highly recommend it. My overall thoughts on Resident Evil 4 is that it is an extraordinary game that will stand the test of time, and I really love it. Alright guys, this is it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm really happy to be back. As I said, this is going to be my usual type of content from now on, and it will be a lot more scarce, maybe one a month or so. There probably won't be any rap or gaming videos that I used to do. They're gone out the window. I think I'll be sticking to this type of content from now on, and I hope you all enjoy it. As I said before, the links to the videos I use will be down below, and the RE server will be down below as well. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.